So getting back to the Chiefs' first pick, Trent McDuffie, like we mentioned, he was a bit of an undersized corner, which is really the big knock on him, but he's athletic and he's a really good cover corner. Kind of the term that scouts use for him is that he's sticky. He's always close to the receivers. He reads their routes well. He's good at recognizing that. So he's very smart, which will definitely help him as far as when he'll be able to start playing for the Chiefs. And obviously when they take somebody in the first round, they expect him to be able to start right away. But with him being as football smart and intelligent as he is, it'll be able to help him contribute at a high level from day one. Doesn't have the greatest ball skills, didn't have a ton of interceptions while at UW, but a very willing tackler, very physical. And despite his size, he's actually very good in press coverage, which is mostly what the Chiefs ask their corners to do. And you've had some opportunities to listen to Trent McDuffie speak, and I know that you're very, just from what you've seen and heard from him, very high on his character and just kind of the attitude that he brings to the defense.
Yeah, it's listening to him is exactly what Andy and Brett mentioned as far as some of the intangibles that he brings. 3-year starter, and you can just feel his when he's talking, his confidence, his excitement. He kept referring to Spags as Spagnola, so which was awesome. And because he doesn't even know. In fact, they asked him, and about getting picked. The Chiefs were not even on his radar. He had spoken briefly with them, but there was not, probably because the Chiefs really weren't anticipating that he was going to be there, right? And so when he said he saw the Kansas City number come across, it was pretty cool. He had actually stepped out to take the call and was, just that regular call that, we're going to be drafting you type of thing. And while he was on the phone with the coaches, his family just blew up in the other room because they had heard his name get picked. And so he actually asked the Chiefs to hold on so that he could go spend that moment with his family and be in the moment. And because he talked about how important his family was. And so there was just a huge gathering that was there. And so, you could just tell he is just an awesome kid. And when he was talking to Spagnola, he was like, send me plays. I'm ready to start learning now. So this is not Jamarcus Russell getting a blank CD and then pretending that he watched it and was learning the offense. This is the epitome of what they say. We want people who love to play football. And you could even just see it, in his Zoom conference that, he's got that. I feel like he's got that factor that people are want to rally around him. So, and he's stoked to be here. He was, yeah. And, he's going to be Mighty Mouse Part 2 for those old school Kansas City Chiefs fans who know who Mighty Mouse was several years back.
Yeah, well, that was actually a theme. Sorry, I'm not going to comment on the Mighty Mouse.
Look it up.
That's just
all right. Chiefs fans, tell me who Mighty Mouse was, and then you know what, you'll
educate me.
I'll be impressed.
Yeah, well, that's a theme, and we can talk about a couple of the other defensive players that the Chiefs took because they went heavy on defense in this draft. But one of the main themes for sure was getting players on the defensive side of the ball who were physical, who were smart, and had high motors that just were relentless in in their playing. And so McDuffie fits that as well. So he's a bit undersized, but I mean, the comparisons to Matthew in some regards are fair, where he's undersized, but he has that mentality. And, maybe we saw Matthew get away from it as he's gotten older. But his willingness to go in and, put his nose in there and make a hit, that's something that the Chiefs have always wanted to see from their corners ever since Marcus Peters. And Marcus Peters was maybe an exception just because he was so great in other parts of his game. But they're really trying to change or just instill this mentality on the defensive side of the ball. And defensive backs are not exempt from the physicality and being expected to make tackles. So, and those kinds of players endear themselves to the fan base. Fans love to see, players, risking things like, risking their bodies or putting themselves out for the benefit of the team, sacrificing maybe some pain to, for team success. And so, I mean, Sorensen was one of those players for years that people just loved how, his effort and his willingness to just do whatever it takes to help the team win. So if we can get a lot of players like that, I mean, those are players that the fans are going to love, and McDuffie fits that. So they went defense again. They had another pick in the first round. They had one at pick 30, and they went with George Karlaftis. He was actually born in Athens, Greece. And his grandpa was there, and he barely spoke English at the draft. And so, I mean, it was just kind of cool hearing his story and him coming over. So he actually hasn't been playing football for that long. I think he started late in high school when they moved over to the US, and then played his college at Purdue. And, this was another guy that PFF had ranked very high. I think he was in the top 15, or, top 20 as far as players go. And so the Chiefs were able to get him at a value, at least according to PFF and a lot of other, ranking sites. And so I think really the only knock with him is that people just don't like how long or how short his arms are. And, for those of you who aren't super, locked in on defensive line profiles, the length of your arms is important. It helps to keep your body away from the offensive linemen, because as soon as they get their hands on your chest, they can kind of control where you go and what you do. And so by having long arms as a defender, you can keep their hands away from you. And you're able to move more freely and get around them. Conversely, offensive linemen, obviously it's a huge plus for them to have long arms so that they can get their hands on defenders quicker and easier. So that's why some people were a little skeptical of him, but he has everything else. I mean, he's got good speed. He's fast, he's got good speed, but he's strong, very strong. I mean, you see him bull rush Big Ten offensive linemen. And that's saying something in the Big Ten, because, they always have great offensive lines. So, and then again, just that high motor is just something that you constantly see when you watch his games, that he's always trying to make a play and get after the quarterback. And so, so that's something that's going to be really exciting for the Chiefs to watch, especially when you look back at some of the rushers that we've had, and you just kind of get disappointed that players maybe are taking plays off or not trying as hard. Maybe there's different things that go into that, but when you get players like Karlaftis that, are going to give it all they have every snap, it's going to be fun to watch. And I think he's gotten comparisons to like JJ Watt. I don't think he's necessarily, he doesn't have the arms that JJ Watt has. And so he might be a little bit limited in some of the moves that he can do, but just that blue collar, like tenacity that JJ Watt brings, that's something that Karlaftis can bring to the Chiefs defense. And that'll definitely help with the culture that the Chiefs are trying to build there with the physicality and effort on that side of the ball.
Yeah, it's, just listening to him, he loves the mental aspect of the game. As he walked through, when somebody asks him why he loves the game, he just loves not only the physical part, but he loves the mental, the pre-snap, while the play is taking place, and then, replicating his technique. And that was one of the things that he said that intrigued him, is because he's played a lot of sports, as you alluded to. And, a lot of them you can through repetition, you can just, you can kind of perfect, a pitching motion, for instance. If you can repeat that same pitching motion and create that consistency, you can be successful, and then you just keep doing it. He talked about in football, that's not the case, because there's always different stimulus taking place, and that you still have to work on having your technique, but it changes depending on, how that play is developing, or what the scheme is, or what the responsibility is, or how he's being attacked. So it was well, there's a reason he's at Purdue, I guess, because he's smart. And just like you said, he's only been playing football, he said, for about 6 or 7 years, and his best football is ahead of him. So, the Chiefs not only expect him to make an impact day one, but only get better and better, each year. So that's exciting. If he can make an impact on our D line right now and know that he's going to improve, that's something to be excited about.
Yeah, and he had a lot of pressures, defensive pressures in college, but he kind of alluded to it in one of the press conferences I saw, but he was consistently getting double teamed because he was the best defensive lineman on Purdue's team. And so he was getting a lot of the focus from offenses, and he was just talking about how excited he was to be coming to a team that has other, pass rushing stars with, Frank Clark and Chris Jones taking a lot of the attention away from him, where he can kind of go to work more one-on-one and just get after the quarterback. Another thing he said that he really enjoyed about the Chiefs was that, that they play ahead so often from ahead. So, when teams are trying to catch up, they're throwing the ball a lot, so he can kind of pin his ears back and just get after the quarterback. So, so he talked about, I guess he had a really good relationship with the Chiefs pre-draft, and he knew that they liked him and he really liked the Chiefs. And so I think he knew that they were kind of targeting him, and that this was a match that both of them were looking forward to. So definitely looking forward to him, and he fills a big need for the Chiefs. I thought that was the biggest need for the Chiefs going into the draft, was an edge rusher out, opposite Frank Clark, who obviously is going to be young and we can kind of build the defense with. But again, just somebody who can get after the quarterback when the focus of the offense is on other pass rushers. So,
and just to dovetail off of that, maybe you'll address, one of the moves that the Chiefs did today, regarding Ingram. So because that makes a difference as well as on the D line. So if you just want to talk a little bit about what that transaction was and how that works and how that's going to possibly affect the Chiefs.
Yeah. So I actually just saw this just before we got on here, and the Chiefs placed an unrestricted free agent tag on Melvin Ingram. And it's something that's a tag that's almost never used. It's been, I think I saw, what did you say? It was like 2002 or something. The last time it was.
I think that's vaguely what I saw. It was like the Giants did it a long time ago.
Right.
And nobody had done it since then. And then the Chiefs in Baltimore did it the same day in the same season.
Yeah. So the Ravens ended up using it on Justin Houston, interestingly enough. And the Chiefs used it on Melvin Ingram. And there's a lot kind of that goes into it, and, it'll either happen or it won't. So we don't have to go into all the details of what the tag is, but basically, unless Ingram is able to sign with any team right now, But if he doesn't sign by a deadline that's in July, he's pretty much going to end up spending the next season in Kansas City, and he'll be paid. It's like a set amount. He'll be paid like 10% more than he made last season.
Yeah, he'll be making over $4 million.
Okay, so then
I think it's 110%.
Right, which would be 10% more than he made last year, right?
Well, no, I thought it was 100. I don't know if, we'll have to look at that because I don't know what he made last year.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, so I guess, I mean, I don't know if, I
don't think it's like a huge amount. Like it's not going to be.
I guess he wouldn't be making $100 million.
I don't know. Math was never my forte, so I don't even know what. Yeah, but the way I understood it was that he was going to be a raise from what he made last year, just for that kind of incentive and growth, but it wasn't going to be a huge amount. But if he is signed by another team, and this is kind of important because he might end up just signing with another contender, is that he will count as, towards the formula for the Chiefs to get a compensatory pick next year. So today, I don't know if it was today or yesterday where that deadline kind of passed for normal free agents. If they, once that deadline passed, now they can sign with teams and they don't count towards the previous team's compensatory formula. So that's kind of why the Saints waited so long to sign Tyrann Mathieu, who just signed today with the Saints. So he's not going to count towards the Chiefs' compensatory formula for getting an extra pick next season, but because the Chiefs put this special tag on Melvin Ingram, if another team signs him, then he will count next year. So again, I think
it's a smart business decision.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's not a franchise tag where it's kind of guaranteeing basically that he's going to sign with the Chiefs, but it definitely helps the Chiefs. It helps it be more of a win-win for the Chiefs, regardless of what Melvin Ingram decides. And I really hope he does decide to sign with the Chiefs because, I mean, that just gives them more flexibility as a pass rusher. He's obviously a capable pass rusher and can help the Chiefs. And if we don't have to rely on him every down, given his age, that we'll just be able to keep him fresh for the whole season and kind of be able to bring him in key moments to get after the quarterback.
Part of that rotation, right?
Yeah, and he's got that same kind of relentless personality and play style that could really, go well with Karlaftis and can teach him. And honestly, I might rather have him be a mentor to Karlaftis maybe more than Frank Clark, just based on, their successes in the league and just kind of their personalities and how they've developed over their careers. But yeah, the Chiefs are by no means out of the Melvin Ingram market. So that's something to keep an eye on, and hopefully, I think the market I think some of these signings will pick up sooner now that the draft is over and teams have a better understanding of what holes they need to fill before the season. Mm-hmm. So I think teams will start to be more aggressive towards a lot of these free agents that are still left. And Jadeveon Clowney is another one of those defensive ends who, could provide some value, and a lot of people are split on him. So Dave, we don't have to get into it now, but you might just have a different opinion on Jadeveon Clowney as an option. But the Chiefs did continue to go heavy defensively, but not until after they took a wide receiver in the second round. At pick 54, they took Western Michigan wide receiver Sky Moore. And I'm really excited for him. Chiefs fans, I think, thought that the Chiefs should go wide receiver in round one, just because everybody kind of panicked after the Tyreek Hill trade and just kind of seeing who we have right now. And I don't think we have bad receivers at all by any means, but there's obviously a hole that's a void that's there when Tyreek Hill left. So, I'm really excited about Sky Moore and the things that he brings to the Chiefs. We don't have a whole lot of time left, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on why I love his fit with the Chiefs. But I guess just a brief, scouting report on him is that he's a bit undersized, like 5'9", 5'10". So he's not kind of the X receiver that at least I was hoping for with the Chiefs, who can play outside all the time and give Mahomes like a big target to throw to. But he does fill some of the Tyreek Hill void in that he's a great route runner, and he can create his own space and get open by himself without having the offense to have to scheme to get him open. And so he's very technical. He has great hands, a little bit shiftier. He's got great speed, not elite burner speed or anything, but but he does a lot of things well. And because of that, he can play inside or outside, which is great in Andy Reid's offense, his ability to play in multiple wide receiver positions. So I'm really excited to see what Sky Moore can do when partnered with Patrick Mahomes, because I think that they can build a connection together, probably not to the same level that Travis Kelce and Mahomes have, just because that's generational, I think. But, but a connection that they can make where, Moore can find those open spaces in the field. And, when it's 3rd and 5 and the Chiefs need a first down, I think Moore can develop into that safety outlet for Patrick Mahomes that Tyreek Hill was at times. So I'm really excited for what he can do for the Chiefs.
I'll take him if he's just a faster Wes Welker, as somebody said. That would be, he doesn't have to be a generational talent. Just be Wes Welker. Give me 1,000 yards, possession it, be consistent, always get those tough yards. And yeah.
And everybody talks about Tyreek Hill's speed, but I think one of the things that brought him was the most valuable was like in the playoff games when some of the biggest moments when we needed a first down. I mean, the Chad Henne one comes to mind, that quick out that he ran for the first down to seal the game. Being able to run those crucial plays to him short yardage and trust him to make those plays was huge for the Chiefs. They weren't winning games, especially later on, with just using Tyreek Hill's speed to beat people deep. So
they solved that.
Yeah. So the value that Sky Moore brings, I think, fills a void that Tyreek Hill left, but it was an important one, an important role that Tyreek Hill played here. And so being able to take that pressure off of Kelce too, in those situations where when they're double teaming Kelce on 3rd and 5, Moore can create some space one-on-one with somebody and get open and get a first down. Mm-hmm. All right. So then Chiefs go back-to-back defensive players in rounds 2 and 3. Cincinnati safety Brian Cook, and then Wisconsin linebacker Leo Chanel. Both of them, I think, are kind of, the later you get in the draft, the more flaws you're going to see, because then they would have gone earlier, obviously. But, Brian Cook, he's fast. And he blows up blockers. And the same with Leo Chanel. That's kind of what they're known for, is their physicality. Brian Cook, I saw a highlight of him. There was a play where the other team was running a pitch play, and there was a pulling guard, and you just see Brian Cook flying from his safety position and meeting that pulling guard at the line. And he just dives into this lineman, takes him out, and takes the running back out behind him. It was just an insane play on so many levels, just because, the speed that he was moving at just to take that guy out, and his willingness to just dive into that guy. I think he's just one of those guys that's you say jump and he says into what? So it's just like, that's going to be a fun guy to see out there. I think he's going to fill that Dan Sorensen role on the defense as that third safety who plays in the box. He's kind of limited in his covering, his coverage abilities. And so you don't want him necessarily to be one-on-one with, with a really talented tight end or running back, but he definitely has the speed for it. I think it's just his fluidity in going from his back pedal to sprinting back. He just kind of has those tighter hips. So he's going to be a great player going from the back to the front. So he's going to be a great blitzer and, just kind of that enforcer on the defensive side of the ball. And obviously he's going to be younger and faster than Sorensen was. So he'll be able to fill that role, but he'll just be able to do it better than Sorensen probably ever did.
But but Sorensen was, everybody's hating on Sorensen now. Not that you are right now, but we forget what he brought to the table early on. It's just amazing how fast Chief fans will turn on their own. They'll eat their own children. But yeah, so let's get to Leo Chanel. It's he was picked round 3, number 103. And I wasn't sure exactly, other than what I saw, after he got picked, you hear a little bit more about him and what he was bringing. The same thing that you were talking about. He's a thumper. A lot of people refer to him as a 90s perfect 90s linebacker. Put the neck roll on him, but Veach mentioned that in the press conference that they envision him kind of like that Damian Wilson role for the Chiefs. And so it was interesting. I'm thinking, okay, he's going to be special teams and, just kind of work his way in, in a year or whatever that time frame is. But they actually have expectations for him because of what you said before, that tackling ability and his willingness to get in and get after it. And from what I understand, his challenge as well is some of those coverage limitations. But whether it's blitzing or stopping the run, he is expected to be a powerful force in helping establish that. So excited to see Damian Wilson, but faster and younger.
Yeah. So scheme wise, he's it looks like he's going to kind of fit in that Sam role, that strong side linebacker role, where he's mostly given the responsibility of stopping the run. And that's where Bolton played last year while Hitchens was playing the mic and kind of running the defense. But with Bolton's experience there and him kind of being the leader of the defense, he'll move into Mike in the middle. And he still provides that physicality that we love to see from him last year, being all over the place, and being that middle linebacker there will give him that freedom to be able to move and make more plays. And so we're upgrading with athleticism and speed right there with Hitchens gone. And then Willie Gay is probably going to stick in that will position where, they can use his speed to maybe cover running backs or tight ends or, it's kind of free roam out there. So it's going to be a mean linebacking core and a faster linebacking core, which is really what the Chiefs have needed the last few years. So I'm really excited to see what they bring. I saw that. I think he either had it tattooed or it was written on his arm, and he would write it during game days, but it was death row. And so that's kind of made its rounds on social media, just kind of trending in Chiefs Kingdom, and talking about how the linebacker core, is that something that those three can call themselves? So the Legion of Boom or Legion of Zoom, they could be death row. So maybe it's a little cheesy, but I think that's awesome, especially with how physical and how fast that the three of them could be. Hopefully they got to live up to the name, but there's some awesome potential there. And it's just a nice change from what we've had with Hitchens and even Wilson. They had the physicality and everything, but they just were always half a step slow on getting there. So being able to get younger and still get players that are willing to go in and hit and blow up plays. And that's another thing I wanted to point out with Ben Neiman gone. I was always so frustrated with him whenever he was asked to blitz, which seemed like it was pretty often. And he would just run into a blocker and just like, it was done. Like he wasn't going through or going around anybody. He was just taking up a blocker.
He ran to his hole. Yeah. And if somebody was there, he stopped.
Yes, it is so frustrating. It's just like, yeah, he knows where to go, but he can't do anything once he gets there. So, I mean, I don't want to hit on Neiman. He's, but
Hey, you know what?
over.
What did he last? 5 years?
Yeah,
I mean,
yes,
good on him.
no, yeah. I mean, at some level, I'm jealous, um, but that's not what we're going to be seeing with Leo back there. I mean, he's going to blow up offensive linemen en route to blowing up a running back. So that's going to be something that's going to be awesome to see. And, that's going to be awesome with Spags and all the different pressures that he creates with having, with Chanel and Brian Cook, the safety, and their blitzing abilities. It's going to be fun to see what kind of pressures that he can come up with the athleticism that they have now.
So you're thinking they're going to put people down.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
it's going to be a race to the ball carrier.
Yeah, it is. It would just be so fun just because they all have that mentality, like, let's just go get the ball. And if you have all of them competing for that, just, I think it could be a really fun defense to watch.
So are we going to go ahead? Not necessarily that they were, because I think that we were getting tougher, but we're not the finesse defense anymore, or the perceived finesse defense.
Yeah.
Would that be?
I think that was a major focus for Veach in this draft and in the offseason. I mean, even Justin Reed that they brought over from the Texans. I mean, he's bringing a mentality too, similar to the one that I think Matthew was hopeful that Matthew brought, and he did for a little bit. But the Chiefs really have struggled with that ever since Andy Reid got here, with kind of the defense that reflects the offense, and maybe even just the personality of the head coach, just the finesse, scheme it up. And I don't know. I think the defense just kind of relaxed and let the offense carry the team. And, bringing in all of these players on the defensive side of the ball, you're not going to even have to rely on Matthew to just get everybody engaged. You're bringing in a ton of players who naturally do that already.
Right.
And so,
new blood.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. There's a lot of blue collar to this defense now, and I think it's going to be really fun to watch, and it's going to make fans happy.
We might see defensive chief jerseys out at Arrowhead.
Yeah, well, that's what's getting weird too. Just seeing some of the numbers that these players are getting, and it happens every year. Just with, oh, that was his number. Oh, that was his number.
Yeah,
and now it's this person's number. It's just, I mean, Sorensen's 49's taken. I think Leo Chanel took that one, so it's just like, it's just going to be weird seeing another white guy with 49 out there.
But this one won't be getting stuck in holes.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll look different. It'll be like, oh, that's what it was supposed to look.
I don't think we would be mistaken Chanel for Neiman regardless.
Yeah, so
little different builds there.
Yeah. So then round 4, the Chiefs went defense again with Fayetteville State cornerback Joshua Williams. So Fayetteville, I thought, was in Arkansas. When it is, but not Fayetteville State. It's in North Carolina, right?
Evidently.
So I think it's got to be a Division II school. I'm pretty sure. So
it's a HB, Historical Black College University. So I don't know if all of those are D2, are they? I don't know about Jackson State. It seems, I don't know.
I think it's D2.
Interesting. I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah. But he definitely fits Veach and Spagnuolo's, prototypical cornerback that they've been picking, especially later in the drafts. And that's what Veach tends to do towards the end of drafts. They want to get their prototypical physical specimens in any position, and then just hope for the upside that they can coach them up and kind of refine their skills to be able to match their athleticism. So, I mean, this guy is 6'3", and he does the things that they like. He's a strong press corner, and he dominated the receivers at that level. But the question is going to be for him, there's some technique, especially as the receivers are going to be a lot more skilled, but just the speed of the game in the NFL, it's one thing to go from Division I to the NFL, and that's a huge jump, but to go from Division II, playing those smaller schools and those smaller receivers, to the NFL, it will probably take some time, but, Brett Veach has a history of being able to, Veach, along with Spagnuolo and Coach Reed and the defensive coaches, have had this track record of being able to develop athletic specimens and turn them into great cornerbacks. L'Jarius Sneed, one of them, Charvarius Ward, another one. So these are players that, while they're drafted a little bit later, might take some time to develop, but have the physical skills that, you would expect in a first round player. There's just certain technical things or, playing, their level of competition that are concerns for them. So,
and he definitely got the attention of, he was the only D2 player invited to the Senior Bowl. So, it's not only does he have those physical features, but he had put enough out there to warrant that. And he kind of, I think it was 20 in 20, he knew that he got some type of a letter that let him know that like he was on the radar type of thing. And then he got the invite in 21 for the Senior Bowl. So, while he may be a project, it's not just looking at his physical features and, hoping we can make something out of him. He's definitely got some skills there that, as you said, just need to be developed more with better competition. I'm excited to see, where he goes. Just based on some of the things I've read about him, and even just listening to him, he's got the confidence that he's going to be successful. So it's fun watching these young guys that we just look at names, right, or plugging them into places, but these are real kids that are like, this is what they want to do, and it's meaningful to them.
Yeah, to
be successful and be driven to succeed in their career.
Yeah, it's definitely it's gonna be exciting to see all these guys, especially these later picks that for most teams are just long shots to just make the roster. But with the Chiefs, have a real opportunity to contribute to the team meaningfully in the next year or next couple of years. Rashawn Fenton was another one of those guys, and he doesn't even have all the physical talents that a lot of these guys have. So there's going to be opportunities there for these guys to play. And so it's really exciting to know that they're going to have that opportunity to see the field for a championship contender like this.
Right. That they're able to compete for a team that, has been to the AFC, has had much success. Usually there's not that many openings, right? And so for them to come in and have legitimate chances, and the Chiefs are finally have been in that role for a while, that people that we let go are going to end up on somebody else's roster.
Yep.
I wonder how many GMs are looking over the Chiefs and the Ravens rosters. Like, okay, if this guy, if these guys are their last cuts, we got to pick them up.
Yep.
Our scouting isn't as good as theirs. So all right.
We got to wrap this up, and we didn't even get through all of our, all the Chiefs picks. Offensive tackle Kennard is going to be a great player to watch for. And we're going to get into all these players in future episodes. We got time before the season and before training camp. So we'll hit those guys, go into depth more a little bit with them in future episodes. So we're going to and call it an evening for tonight. Thank you everybody for joining us for the Chiefly Football Podcast. Signing off for Dave, I'm Kinloch, and we'll talk to you guys later.